Hey everyone, thank you for joining us today. We are very excited to talk with you about your side of the AWS Shared Security Responsibility Model and how Fortra is positioned as your cybersecurity ally in helping you secure your AWS workloads. Next slide, please. My name is Nick Franklin, and I am Fortra's AWS Technology Alliance Director. And presenting alongside me today is Mr. Yaling Liu, one of Fortra's principal solution architects. Next slide, please. Awesome. Okay, so in the next few minutes, we're looking to provide insight into Fortra's very long-standing relationship with AWS and AWS consumers, the direction that our consolidated security efforts have taken in developing what we are dubbing as the Fortra Threat Brain, and then we'll dive into a handful of specific areas Fortra is focused on delivering superior security outcomes for AWS customers. So in the interest of time, we encourage you to type any questions you have along the way in the Q&A box, and we will respond to you there. Slide, please. All right, so first though, we want to anchor this discussion in the cloud shared security responsibility model. Now, if you hang out in and around the cloud for any length of time, you are likely to hear the phrase that cloud security is a shared responsibility. So in orange, you can see what the cloud provider is responsible for, and in blue, what they are not. So in the case of this graphic, that's a lot of blue space or share that falls on the cloud consumer. Fortra addresses this shared model by assuming a substantial amount of responsibility for delivering security software as a service and as a managed service. Next slide, please. And with this session's focus centered on how Fortra is positioned to meet the needs of customers consuming services on AWS, I want to start by providing some quick context around Fortra's very long history with the world's largest hyperscale cloud provider. So with AWS, our journey to secure customers has really intertwined since the earliest and even preceding days of the AWS Partner network. So within the broader Fortra portfolio of solutions, we recognized very, very early on the value that the hyperscale public cloud would provide, and way back in 2011, we started protecting AWS customers. Fortra's Alert Logic was actually the first MDR ISV to join the APN, or AWS Partner Network, back in 2012. And over the years, we've celebrated a lot of firsts as a partner with AWS as well. We are extremely proud to have been launch partners, competency participants, and technology integrators with AWS across a multitude of different services, just some of which are highlighted on this slide. Next slide, please. Now, Fortra's participation as a founding member of the AWS Partner Network was even featured in an ebook all about the APN that was released earlier this year. From the ebook itself, Fortra is changing how customers do cybersecurity by offering them a single and centralized security ally to partner with for nearly all of their cybersecurity needs. So now I'm going to turn this over to Yaling to talk about what that actually means in the context of the Fortra Threat Brain and the capabilities and security domains that are enhanced as a result. Yaling?
Thank you, Nick. So I'll start with the Fortra vision. Before I started, I want to show you one of the study that we did, and this is a study result about a study for the 5,000 security breaches happened in the past year. So as you can see, the top 4 reasons for those security breaches are from credential, either credential theft, or theft, stealing credentials, phishing attack, exploit the vulnerabilities, or botnet. And these 4 kind of vectors are accounted for like roughly 75% of all the attacks that occur. So by you think these it's simple, right? Just improve each of those 4 elements, then will give you a better security posture. But the challenge is you have to deal with this simultaneously, because the attack chain using not only one of those, maybe all of those, right? So we group those attack vectors into 2 main groups: data security and infrastructure security. On top of this prevention side, we noticed the security awareness training is a big portion. And due to lack of security professionals, managing service sometimes play a heavy role here as well. So now let's take a look at how we address this issue. It's important because when you combine our Fortra products and services, right, with the threat brain, so we will be one of only a small handful of companies in the world that actually can handle this multi-vector problems. So each suspicious signals that generate here will go into our brain, and the brain use a combination of artificial intelligence and human analysis, supervised learning, right? We will relate all the signals to create a context and identify legitimate attacks before it even become a successful breaches. So as you know, there's around like 4,500 security vendors these days in the world, right? And many of them are only providing one product or one set of security control. So those companies, won't able to solve this problem, and very few of them will be able to build a brain like we do. So to copy what we're doing here will cost a company, usually billions of dollars. Fortra has been strategically acquiring security business, which present us with this incredible opportunity. And every additional company we acquire in the future will make the brain smarter, more valuable, and much more difficult for others to copy. So this is the brain. So we're picking up the data signals from external feeds, from email threads, so email domains, IP domains, URLs, from our alert logic MDR studies, we have our vulnerability scanner research teams. So we are collecting all those data feeds and all those elements and then combine them into the single brain. And once the brain has been constructed, as you can see here, we are feeding back into our product and services. So in the back end, we're building a Fortra platform. So the platform will, include all the product services that we offer, and then eventually we're going to give you a single interface, a single UI for the users to consume the product and to, fight against the threats. So I will talk a little bit detail for some of those products today. So let's take a look at the portfolios. So we have many products, from the product lines, and we group them together into a few different, sections. So we have the vulnerability scanner, which we do vulnerability scan management. We also do pen testing services. We have our tripwire, do integration monitor. Offensive security is for red teaming tools. We have the Cobalt Strike. And then the managing service side, we do the MDR, managed WAF as well. So those are from our Alert Logic product line. And the Digital Guardian, Fish Labs are managed DLP and digital risk protection. We also have the data protection line business, which including classification, DLP, and digital rights management, which is the brand name called Vera. Email security, we go through the protection your email security to the digital rights management to do the scan, antivirus, anti-spam, things like that. The last one is the secure file transfer, so which will help you to build your process and the project to move the data from either inside of your organization or cross organization, and then we can do a security scan to do security check, data loss prevention check, to make sure the data that being moved around the systems are secured. So I'll be highlight a few items here, which I have highlighted here to talk about that specifically. So first, I will start with the email security and the digital risk protection. So that's the two main offering. So when we talk about email security, there's many things we can do, right? And it's very challenging because almost half of a security breach starts from email compromise. It can be like a business email compromise, fake domain, also we call it look-like domain, easier to understand, from a leaked credential, right? Someone do a domain spoof, email spoof, or executive name spoof. So we cover all of those, and in detail, the service including like anti-spam, anti-malware, which is the typical, and then we do a phishing detection and response. We do integrated DLP services, we do secure email delivery, and we do manage the DMARC service as well. So the whole process look like this. Start from prevent, right? So we start by secure and then make sure your DNS record is, maintain the hygiene. And then from there, we're able to check, to help you to go through the process to enforce the DMARC. Because these days people say, hey, it's very difficult to enforce the blocking policy for my DMARC. Because of there are not enough people, there's not enough resource to manage that. We will do that for you. Next step is protect. So we do the spam filter. We detected the malicious URL and the malicious files using, the behavior analysis and do some machine learning in the backend to make sure, we do a less false positive and make sure the malicious content is being detected. So that is part of our email offering as well. And then on top of that, we have a big portfolio called training services. So we make sure, the users are proper trained, and we also encourage the user to report suspicious message. So we have a small components built into the system, so user can click a button, say report this is suspicious email. And when we receive those suspicious email reporting, we will do analysis in the backend and then feed back into the system. So in the next time, if another user receive a similar spam phishing email, it will be deleted right away from the system. Okay, so the whole circle is from prevent to train the user to respond to remediate, a whole circle. A few kind of dashboards you can see here. This is the DMARC dashboards, which basically show you who is trying to spoof your email domain, right? How big is the percentage of the email that received are legit email, and where the spoof email coming from. This is the training portal, which give you the opportunity to create the trainings, and then we can even do a phishing simulation from here to test the user if they really understand how a phishing email look like. And then this is the managed digital risk protection. So we look for all the domains across the internet. And if we detect something that look like your domain or someone trying to spoof your reputation, like online store or even fake apps in the app store, we can do everything from there, do the brand protection and social media protection, things like that. So this is the look like a domain, the spoof domain detection. So you can choose to say, hey, this is the whitelist, bypass it, or this is something malicious, let's take it down. So we provide a full service from detection to account takeover or domain takeover. The second piece is the data prevention, data loss prevention. So the data loss prevention, whenever we talk about data loss prevention, people always thinking it's very difficult, very challenging to do. So we group them into 3 main phases, right? So the first phase is data classification. So you have to identify where the sensitive data is, what kind of data you want to protect first. The second step is monitor and enforce, if you want to, the data movement around the system. And then the third part is if you decide to, share the data with external parties, right? So this will, the data need to be flow. So how can you enforce or monitor the data is still being protected when you share with your third-party vendors? So that's the 3 pieces together, combine our data loss prevention portfolio. Start with the classification. So there are multiple ways to do this. You can either use one of those or multiple or combine the 3 of those. So those are like, you can do content inspection. Say, hey, what content or what kind of keywords, string, syntax, you can define within the file, so we can check that. Or you can do context-based, like who owned this file, which application, created those files, or where the file is being located, what repository it come from. Or the third one is user-based labeling, we call it. So we give user the opportunity to proper label the file. So the example here in the right-hand side is the label kind of screen capture. So you can choose, hey, this file is internal from the marketing team, and the retention period is 3 years or 2 years, right? So we call it multi-layer label. And then we can give users a wizard, so help them to guide through the labeling process, right? So once the file is being labeled, you are start to monitoring how the data being moved inside the system. So you start to put limits. It can be a soft limit or hard limit, like the picture shows here, from the less restrictive to more restrictive, right? Sometimes some of our customers just want to say, hey, I want to give users the ability to do whatever they want. So that's a soft limit. We just log the event and send back to the system, and we can see, right? Or we say, you know what, give users some prompt, make sure they understand what they're doing, right? To more restrictive is, you know what, we're gonna block the user doing these kind of behavior. So it depends on the situation you have or the business you are in. You can either pick the left or the right. Or the middle, so we can tailor the way how can it be deployed into your system. Yeah, so the next one is about the collaboration. So traditionally it's called being called digital risk rights management. So the key information here is the encryption piece. So when you decide to share a file with your external parties, right, how can you make sure the right people are viewing the content and what kind of access rights they have? So we will encrypt the file, and then when the receiver receives the files, they will check the rights they have. So maybe it's read only, or not allowed to print, or not allowed to re-forward, right? So you can control the access rights. In some cases, things change, right? Like people change. I do not want this user to view this file anymore. So what you can do is revoke the access right away. So next time when the user click the file, want to open it again, it will check the policy and notice, hey, your access has been revoked. So you won't be able to access the content anymore, even if you have access to the file, right? So that's very powerful. And all those informations, all those activities will be tracked in the system. So you can review all the auditings, who, when, from where, access which file, and did what to the file. Those can be centralized managed. So that's combined the data loss prevention part of the solution. So you can use this to protect your intellectual property, PII data, and sometimes is for a compliance requirement or the external collaboration. Then let's talk about the MDR and the WAF. I know there's a lot to go through, so I'll a bit faster. MDR is, our name is Alert Logic. It's been in the industry for many years. So we offer 24/7 services, and we commit 15 minutes response time. So the overall service that we offer for Alert Logic, or managed service and managed detection response, is a few steps. So first step is collect all the data sets, collect all the information. So that including, we collect the host information made from your, EC2 instance, from your servers, right? And we also collect the network information, VPC logs, things like that. We also collect the native, cloud-based logs as well, like CloudTrail, GuardDuty, AWS Configure. We cover containers as well. So when we combine all those information, we also do vulnerability scanning. I forgot to mention that. So we start by scan assets, build an assets library, right? And then we correlate all the information that we gathered, right? So whenever there is things or abnormal behaviors or logs being detected, the people in the back end, our threat research team, our SOC team, we have more than 100 people, in the SOC team, will check, investigate the incident, and then based on the incident itself, assign a severity, whether you need a immediate response, remediate it, or it's just backend noise, right? So it's a fully managed service. As you can see here, I think Nick mentioned early on, from many years ago, we became a AWS authorized partner. So we support many of the AWS services natively, right? So that's the MDR services. And on top of the signals from the cloud environment itself, we can also ingest data signals from the other applications, like your authentication tools, or the firewalls, your endpoint protection solutions, and then we can combine them together, become a fully holistic view to show you what kind of activities, what kind of threat that it has in your system, And on top of this MDR, we have a managed WAF offering as well. So our WAF, is trying to solve the two typical challenges, a typical WAF solution facing. So one is, noise, because WAF is always being challenging dealing with the backend noise. The second is very difficult to put into a blocking mode. So we will help you to guide through the whole process, start from learning, build a benchmark, and then tune the policy, and eventually block mode, get into the block mode. So we do not only do like a typical threat intelligence, WAF policy, right? We also do DDoS protection. So we can implement in the auto scale mode or high availability setup. So we can auto scale up for DDoS attacks. And also we do like a bot detections, API protections as well. We have a very interesting feature called, people love it, virtual patching. So if we notice you are vulnerable or you have vulnerabilities to certain applications, you can turn on the policy saying, hey, if you are trying to attack these kind of specific vulnerabilities, you can just block those traffics, And this is what we call virtual patching. And, the goal is once you have enforced, managed the WAF, we can actually blocking the traffic, malicious traffic, and do zero-day protections, okay? So this is the dashboard for the MDR and the WAF. And actually quite often our customer, they don't even need to log into the platform because it's a fully managed service, right? So we have built-in process in the backend. When we notice something suspicious, we can send alerts to our customer. So from their mobile endpoint, right? So from their phone, they can just say, hey, you know what, approve it. So then we can just go ahead and block the IP or, take down the machine if needed. Or it can be configured in a way that fully automated. So with your authorization, if we detect a certain criteria, and then we can just go ahead and block the IP or, do some remediation in that case. So in summary of our MDR service is, that's the customer feedback. Basically, it's give them, peace of mind as our MDR offering. Okay, vulnerability management. So we offer a big range of service and tools under the vulnerability manager portfolio. So including the vulnerability scanner, and we do application scan, web application scan. We do vulnerability scanning services, like a pen testing services. We also do adversary simulation and red teaming tools as well. So in a little bit detail, the biggest challenge for vulnerability management is you have discovered so many vulnerabilities, and what to do first, right? Where is your sweet spot for the remediation? That's the key question. So what we're trying to do here is, so I will show you, this is a dashboard for our VM, vulnerability management. On top of the scanned results of how many vulnerability has been detected, right? The key thing here is we will, based on our backend threat analysis, data feeds, and investigation, we will give you the recommendation. So, hey, these are the vulnerabilities you should fix first, based on the severity, because those might be able to exploit by the external parties and external facing assets, right? So those need to be fixed right away. So we will give you a prioritized list to do on top of the CVS score, because just rely on CVS score may not be enough, right? So for overall the service offering we have, including the network vulnerability scanner, we have black box fuzzing scan as well. So scan for those IoT devices, different protocols. So it's a black box scan. We also do static code analysis. On top of that, we do pen testing services, including like a social engineering testing, site visit. We do adversary simulation, Cobalt Strike I mentioned early on, and also we do some other red teaming operations. To summarize the VM, So we do not only VM, vulnerability manager, pen testing services, right? So the next step is we do the core security, trying to exploit those vulnerability and give you the ideas, what to fix first. And then the last piece is our red teaming tool sets. So then let's talk about the marketplace, Nick.
Yeah, Lang, thank you so much for the overview of the Fortra portfolio. Listen, as we bring this in for a landing, what I want to highlight are the efforts that we've taken at Fortra to bring these solutions in line to how many AWS customers prefer to transact third-party software and services. So we do recognize that for many of you, AWS Marketplace is the preferred means of transaction, as it reduces complexity and accelerates the procurement and really simplifies your accounts payable motion by combining your cloud infrastructure and your software solutions into a single invoice from AWS. Yeah, for those of you with EDPs as well, just a reminder, 25% of your spend commit to AWS can come from third-party solutions that you transact through AWS Marketplace. So to recap the kind of list of opportunities Yaling described, Fortra's MDR, managed WAF, data protection, email security, digital risk protection, security awareness training, vulnerability management, penetration testing, and web app and PCI scanning. This list of Fortra solutions transactable in the AWS Marketplace truly represents best of breed technology, processes, and people that are all committed to being your cybersecurity ally. So come check us out in the AWS Marketplace or at fortra.com and let us help you secure the future today. Next slide, please. Okay, so wrapping up, after this webinar, you will see a survey. If you are interested in learning more about anything we talked about today or how Fortra can work with you to utilize or action any of the solutions you have or are interested in via the AWS Marketplace, please fill out the survey and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Second, AWS reInvent is just over a week away. This is their marquee conference in Las Vegas that takes place over a week that draws 60 to 70,000 people in. If you are going to be there, a contingent of senior and executive leaders from Fortra will be there as well, and we would love to connect with you. Fortra is actually co-sponsoring an event with one of our closest partners, Mission Cloud. This event is called Mission Cloud Ignite. I have seen the list of all of the various events taking place at this conference, and I say without reservation that this is the reInvent party of the year. There's epic festivities that are associated with this, and ultimately featuring a live performance by platinum rap legend Ludacris. So we will provide you with an exclusive RSVP link in the webinar or a follow-up email to this webinar. If you are interested in attending this, that link will help get you in. Lastly, we invite you to attend our upcoming December 14th webinar. In this webinar, our Vice President of Managed Security Services is actually going to be joined by Mike Reed from AWS. He is the AWS Category Lead for Security and Observability. And they're going to dive deeper into what AWS customers can expect and experience by leveraging an AWS Level 1 MSSP like Fortra to secure their AWS workloads. So this is going to be heavy on perspective and experience from the customer side. So a registration link for that webinar will also be included in the follow-up email you will receive after this webinar. Next slide. And lastly, for Yaling and myself and all of us at Fortra, thank you very much for your time. We wish you a wonderful rest of your week, and we look forward to seeing you in the cloud.
Thank you.